I accidentally discovered that every time my best friend came to visit, my daughter would be especially happy, and my husband would actively welcome her. They seemed like the real family, while I acted like I didn't care, even going as far as asking my husband to accompany my best friend to try on clothes in the room. The reason I acted this way was because I already knew that my best friend and my husband had betrayed me. Even the daughter I had just given birth to was actually the result of them implanting an embryo into my body to use me to give birth to their child. My marriage with my husband was only for my family's wealth, and 20 years later they would let the child inherit the fortune, and then my husband would throw me aside without hesitation. But I silently vowed to make them pay the price. Since my daughter's birth, my best friend had come to visit her every day under the pretense of seeing her goddaughter even more often than clocking into work. As my best friend grew closer and closer to my daughter, I didn't stop her, but instead deliberately had my husband take my best friend to the parent-teacher meeting, giving them time alone together. Under my indulgence, they became even more shameless, not even caring if I was around, openly acting inappropriately in front of me. Even so, I still pretended not to notice. 17 years passed like this, and under my best friend's indulgence, my daughter became a rebellious young woman. My husband scolded her for not living up to expectations and questioned how she would inherit my family business, but my daughter didn't care at all, and I calmly replied, "Don't worry, I've already planned everything for her." I said I would send her abroad for further studies, and after 3 years when she returned, she could take over the company. Hearing this, my husband and best friend were overjoyed, believing that after 20 years of planning, their scheme was finally coming to fruition. Since my daughter left for studying abroad, my best friend had moved in under the excuse of the house being too quiet, and they became even more brazen, completely ignoring me, waiting for the day my daughter would return to inherit everything. But what my husband didn't know was that I too had been waiting for this moment. It was time for them to pay the price. 3 years later, my daughter returned from studying abroad, and we went to pick her up at the airport. To my shock, my husband and best friend were openly holding hands. When my daughter walked out of the airport, my best friend immediately rushed up to hug her, caring for her. When my daughter saw me, the first thing she asked was when I would hand over the company to her to manage. I casually replied that everything had already been arranged. Soon we arrived at the press conference where I announced that from today onward, the position of CEO of the company would be taken by my daughter, and that all assets and company shares would be transferred to her name. As my daughter took the share transfer agreement, the company staff walked in with piles of wealth. At this moment, my best friend stood up, pulled out a paternity test report, and revealed that she and my husband had used surrogacy to have a child together. The girl was their biological daughter. My husband then declared that it was I who had forcibly separated him from my best friend, and that the person he truly loved was always her. I then asked the daughter I had carried and raised for 20 years how she felt about this. Unexpectedly, the ungrateful daughter coldly said that she hoped I wouldn't stop their family